If I could go back more than 20 years to when I first started collecting dolls, there are a few things I would whisper in my own ear. Actually, 5. Because when I started, I thought the first thing I needed to know was what kind of dolls I wanted to collect. What would my collection look like? Which dolls were me? Turns out, I had that completely backwards. You don't need to know what you collect yet. And when I say dolls, I don't simply mean the kind you see in my collection. Maybe you're thinking about buying your first Barbie. Maybe you have discovered Bratz, Rainbow High, or Toner. Or maybe TikTok has you suddenly wondering why everyone is hunting for tiny Sony angels in blind boxes. Different dolls, different worlds. But collectors? We seem to run into surprisingly similar questions. What should I collect? Do I need the whole series? How much is too much? Where am I going to put all of this? And sometimes even, why do I feel like I have to explain why I enjoy it? And the first thing I learned, completely by accident. You don't need to know what you collect yet. I started out as a Barbie collector. Barbie was familiar, I knew what I liked, I knew what I was looking at, and honestly, I was quite happy in my little Barbie world. Then one day, I spotted a Toner doll on eBay at a surprisingly good price. So I thought, why not? And then she arrived. She was taller, her proportions were completely different, and she had this presence. Stately, ladylike, elegant, and there was something about her that reminded me of the polished sophistication I already loved in Barbie's fashion model collection, but with a more mature quality all of her own. Suddenly, my carefully defined idea of I'm a Barbie collector had a rather large Toner-shaped hole in it. And that's when I learned something I really wish I'd known sooner. Sometimes you don't know what you love until you actually experience it. Explore first, look for a good second-hand deal, try a pre-loved doll, experiment with different sizes, faces, and styles before making big purchases. Every kind of doll has its own magic, and sometimes you have to actually meet her before you know. Of course, once you start discovering all these wonderful dolls, another little problem appears. You start wanting them. A lot of them. Which brings me to something I know might sound slightly controversial in the collecting world. You don't need every doll in the collection. Let me repeat that. You don't need every doll in the collection, or every Sony angel in a series. Although blind boxes have apparently decided collecting wasn't suspenseful enough already. And honestly, I completely understand the appeal. There is something incredibly satisfying about seeing an entire collection lined up together. But personally, I collect a little differently. I don't believe I need every doll simply because she belongs to a collection I like. For me, it comes down to one very simple question. Does this doll make my heart smile? Usually, you know. You know the very first moment you see her. Because this is where collecting can get tricky. You see a doll everywhere, someone seems excited about her, she's selling out, there's a limited edition, and suddenly you're thinking, wait, do I actually want this? Or does everybody else's excitement want it for me? That's a question I try to ask myself before I buy. Hype can tell you what's popular. It can't tell you what belongs in your collection. A sold-out sign doesn't mean you have missed out. Rare doesn't automatically mean right for you. And somebody else's must-have doesn't have to become yours. Somewhere along the way, after years of collecting, I found myself saying, don't just collect, select. And it stuck. For me, those few words sum up how I want to collect. Let me repeat that. Don't just collect, select. Because let's be honest, doll collecting can get expensive remarkably quickly. One doll becomes three, three becomes 10, then an exclusive appears. Someone mentions international shipping, and suddenly we're discussing postage like international economist. So yes, I definitely recommend having a budget, but I don't think budgeting makes collecting less fun. For me, being selective actually makes it more enjoyable. It's not about owning fewer dolls just for the sake of owning fewer dolls. It's about making the dolls you do choose feel meaningful. But being selective doesn't mean your collection has to become narrow. Mine certainly didn't. Actually, quite the opposite. Our tastes change. We change, I changed, and I think that's one of the nicest parts of collecting. One shelf might give in the polished elegance of a Barbie fashion model. Another gives me Tonner's stately grown-up fashion presence. My Rainbow High collection brings color. OMG brings attitude. And my scene can take me straight back to another era. Sometimes a doll isn't only about what she looks like, she's a memory. You don't have to declare I'm a Barbie collector and then politely ignore every other doll for the rest of your life. Our tastes change. That's part of the fun. A collection isn't a contract. It can evolve because you evolve. Although there is one small complication when you fall in love with dolls of completely different sizes. They have to live somewhere, right? And apparently, dolls have opinions about real estate. Barbie, fairly shelf-friendly brats, we can work with that. When a taller Tyler Wentworth walks through the door, you are suddenly standing there with a measuring tape. And Madame Alexander, at that point, the measuring tape may need emotional support. But here's what more than 20 years of collecting has taught me. You don't need the perfect doll room to start collecting. And I have photographs to prove it. When I lived in a dorm, I had some dolls displayed in our shared bedroom. A few behind my bed, a few on my table side, nothing fancy. But that was my doll space. Then I moved into an apartment, I had a shared home office, and again, nothing elaborate. A table, a few dolls, whatever space I could make work. Then, COVID happened, life changed, and for more than a year, my dolls stayed safely in storage while I was figuring everything else out. Eventually, I moved into a house, I brought them back out and thought, finally, this time I'm going to display them properly. Shelves, beautiful displays, the whole thing, and I did that briefly. And then, life happened. Again. I moved again. And this time into a smaller space, so I adapted again. I added a shelf to my little home office corner, and that became their home. And now, more than 20 years after I started collecting, I finally have a dedicated room for my collection. Looking back though, I wouldn't change the journey because my dolls have moved through life with me. From a dorm room to an apartment, to storage boxes, to a house, back to a little office corner, and finally to a room of their own. So, if you're looking at a beautiful collector room online and thinking, but where am I going to put everything? Please don't let that stop you. Your collection doesn't need the perfect home on day one. You don't have to figure that out today. Maybe your collection starts on one shelf. Maybe it's a cabinet, a desk, a little corner beside your bed. Whatever works for your life right now is enough. You'll adapt, your collection will grow, your life will change, and somehow you'll figure it out together. And there's something else those 20 plus years have taught me. Not everyone is going to understand why this hobby makes you happy. And that's okay. You don't have to convince everybody. You don't need anyone else's permission to enjoy beautiful clothes, tiny accessories, fashion, photography, nostalgia, or simply the pleasure of looking at a doll and thinking, I love her. Your collection doesn't need everybody else's approval. It just needs to bring something wonderful into your world. And maybe that's the biggest thing collecting has taught me. I started out thinking I needed to decide what kind of collector I wanted to be. Instead, collecting helped me discover it. So, if you're thinking about starting your first doll collection, I really hope something I've learned along the way makes your own little journey a little easier. Before you specialize, buy what makes your heart smile. Let your taste change, give yourself a budget, give your doll somewhere to live, even if it's only one little shelf for now. And remember my collecting mantra: don't just collect, select. And please ask me anything you're wondering about in the comments. If there's something I've learned over the years that can help a new collector, I'd be very happy to share it. But if you're already a seasoned collector, I especially want to hear from you. What do you wish you had known when you started? Share your experience, your tips, your mistakes, your little tricks, because there may be someone reading your comment who's choosing their very first doll right now. Maybe together we can turn the comments into a little collector's guide of their own, because the best collection isn't necessarily the biggest or the rarest or the most expensive. It's the one that feels unmistakably yours. And if you'd like to see where some of the dolls in my collection lead me next, I'll meet you in Whisperwood. If you enjoyed our collector chat, please like, subscribe, and share it with another doll lover, or perhaps someone who's just beginning to wonder where there's a room on their shelf for one. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode.